It was last week we started bringing to you here on After News Live some of the conversation about what's going on in Stanley Township. And of course, that's south of where we're currently sitting here in Fargo, where development, growth is happening, certainly on the south side. And Stanley Township, there's, some tension, I guess is what I would boil it down to. And it was just last week, I believe it was last Monday, where there was a gathering where they voted as residents to remove the chair and then appoint somebody else. And then at the following meeting, the attorney's like, yeah, probably not the proper way to do that. And I just need to learn more. So we reach out to Chris Holte. He's a Stanley Township supervisor and acting chair, current chair. Chris, welcome to After News Live. How are you?
Thanks for having me on, Tyler. Yeah, so right now, currently acting chair till we go through some of these, rough waters, try to figure out what the best part forward on this is.
Well, and being a small town guy who grew up there and now currently live in a small town where there's some disagreements on how things are going, it can get a little emotional in some of these meetings.
Yeah, I would say since I came on the board in March, I didn't know everything that was going on, but the first few I've always learned big ears, small mouth, and I've kind of just taking it in. And there's a lot of emotion in there, but I can see both sides.
Okay. So if people are just tuning in, maybe they missed our conversation last week or haven't been following along, the way I can summarize it, but I'd appreciate you. If I get something wrong, correct me. I'm not going to be offended. People attempt doing that all the time in the text club. But you have people that are claiming there's a conflict of interest, that there's a process that hadn't quite gone the way it was when it comes to notices. But a plot of land was sold and zoned in a way that was going to have a concrete plant come, where people across the way, which we had some of those residents on last week, weren't happy about. Then it goes into the fact that there's the conflict of you owning it, you're selling it as a chair, you're going to be benefiting from it, and people just got upset about that it wasn't disclosed. That's kind of how, in my mind, things unfolded. I'm curious from you. You said you kind of see both sides of it, so I want to hear it.
Yeah, so
hear it from you, I guess.
Sure. What I'll take into effect there is whether you're serving on the board or not, you're still a resident. You have every right to come to the board and say, "Hey, I'd like to rezone this. I'd like to sell this piece of property." Just like some of the people that I've met with around there, they don't want that project there. Mm-hmm. So we kind of got to hear both sides. Just like any other city, kind of like you talk about before we started on the air here up north with the data centers, some of these township boards don't have the best way to get the information out to everybody. So the process, I think what happened there is Kevin Biddeford had a plan to sell his property and wanted to go ahead and rezone it. And in doing that, not all the information came out, so the transparency wasn't the best. So the perception was that Kevin was trying to sneak or do something in there. It's kind of how I saw it. My relationship that I've had with Kevin since being on the board is he is an individual that brought an idea to the board, and then some people didn't think that they had all the information when they should have had the information. So I can see where the perception came into that part. As far as the conflict of interest, in June, I was at the meeting and decided that we should get an attorney general's opinion on that. One of the things that we have here is we also have attorneys involved. We have attorneys from the public, we have attorneys from the concrete company, and we have the attorney from the township board. Anytime you get those guys starting to talk, they all have their own opinion on that. The reason that I brought that up wasn't, I'm not a legal person. I don't have training in that. The reason I brought that up in the June meeting is to get the Attorney General or the state's attorney's office to give a decision. I understand the opinions from, say the attorney sides and all that, but that doesn't help us as a board. We need a decision, a clear answer. How do we move forward from that? So there was a lot of that talked. We talked about it in June, and then fast forward to August, we ended up having this special election.
On the special election, on face value, of course, I haven't been a part of the conversation. I've just been following from afar here. Pretty overwhelming vote for those that decided to show up. Now, after that, when I talked last week, people are saying, well, I wish I would have attended because some of us support this project. Well, whoever shows up is one that wins, but it was 82-9 or 89-2, somewhere in there?
The original vote that came in, so just to put into context, I didn't have any partake in that. Sure. But as being somebody that's elected there, I wanted to support the community that was putting something together. That wasn't me taking sides of, the chair, Kevin Biddeford, or the community. I just wanted to make sure that We were there to support whatever was going on, make sure it was orderly and all that. So when that happened, it was 89 votes to remove, 2 not to do it. When they appointed an individual or nominated a person, there was only 1 nominee, and that individual received 59 votes.
Okay. And at the end of the day, we still don't know because it turns out when you talk about the attorneys, which is always fun when the attorneys get involved, right? Even though there's a place in time where it's just absolutely necessary to make sure you're getting it done right, it probably wasn't the best way. So I know going forward, hey, look, legislature, clean this up a little bit about what townships need to do.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So I can just kind of talk about where we're at and where we're going on that part. So the first part is, from the listeners and the Stanley Township people that put the work in there, I don't want them to take this that the board is saying what you did was wrong or whatever. We support that at any time. Democracy needs to play its role. The biggest issue that we have here is before this occurred, we were notified on the rezoning of the land in question here. There was a publication error. It was 2 days late. So basically that vote has now gone like it never happened. So that's an error that the board made at that point. It was a 2-day publication, something that can happen. The publication, what happened, it fell during our annual meeting during an election, and it just missed the 2 days. So we had that one error. Obviously, we have a concrete company that purchased land for a significant amount of money at that time, are now stuck in that. And then there's also another company that I won't name here now, but it's kind of stuck in this publication error portion that we need to try to correct on that part. Fast forwarding to August, before the special election occurred where the town residents ended up working with the clerk to have this special election, we were meeting with them trying to come up with some solutions where we could effectively communicate on everybody's side and get the right information so we could vote. They went forward with the version in the statute that says the clerk and 20% can remove somebody from there, which everybody on the board completely supports that process. The attorney looked at it and said they had some questions. The question is simple math. We know X is around 180 to 181 signatures. But we don't know what Y is. What is Y? Y is the freeholders. The issue we have here, let's say we have 600 to 700 parcels in the Stanley Township. We don't know how many freeholders are there. We started looking into how do we get that answer, because by law, we need to know the actual. What is the actual to get to 20%? We can't determine why without a significant cost. Some of those costs are looking at $400,000 to $500,000. This township doesn't have it.
Sorry, that one caught me off guard.
So,
yeah.
Yep. So you look at it when you buy your home. You get a title abstract. You usually see a fee on there from $550 to $650 or whatever it is. That's what it was in 21 when I bought my last house. So when we start looking at those options, we see that's not a way forward. That we just financially we can't do it, and we can't ask the residents to do that. But we also want to be fair to Kevin Bitford and also to the new applicant and the residents that put all this hard work into it. What's another way we can do this so that we're working with a board composition with certainty? What came up through the board in discussions with the attorney is that we would run a special election here after we post it. Once that time has passed, we'll have another election. The first agenda item will be to remove the person who was elected and Kevin Bitford. If the board votes unanimous and that happens, we'll remove both of them and have another election. And basically, we're going to use the other part of the statute on that process. And when we use that statute, we know with certainty this is our board. There's no issues. The other thing is we can't have another error. We already have a company that's in our township that's feeling some pain that has really nothing to do with the concrete plant portion. It's just a guy who got a permit and rezoning so they could add to their business at that time and kind of got caught in the crosshairs a little bit. So we need to make sure that we get this one right. We can't have this sitting kind of just in the wind type thing. So that's the biggest thing. We don't want people to think that election we say it wasn't legitimate.
Yeah,
or
just
illegitimate.
like the heck with whatever the majority of you decided. We're not happy, so we're just going to ignore it. I don't get that impression. I mean, the fact that that following meeting, I know there's questions of why wasn't this brought up before, but The impression I get is that in good faith effort right now, that the board that you currently are, interim chair, whatever it is trying to do it the right way.
That's what we're trying to do.
And because there's two questions and two different paths that my mind goes is one about the concrete company who purchased the land, the zoning, and it being in limbo, the not in my backyard mentality, which I know a lot of us get when it comes to new development. So that's number one. Is that thing at a standstill? Is it going forward? Is it done? And then, of course, the path of making sure the community is not at each other's throats theoretically or hypothetically. Of, okay, well, we just don't trust our board. We're going to throw everybody out, and just small towns can get ugly in that emotion, Chris.
Yeah, it can. I mean, I know one of the things that I've been doing since I kind of started taking this information on is I'm just meeting with all sides. You had, Warren Solberg and his son on here last week. Yeah. I've been at his house multiple times with my wife and kid. I'm meeting with some of the people that are against the concrete plant, but I'm also meeting for the people that are for it. And then I'm talking to the neighbors that I live in. I live in the largest populated area in the township. I'm talking to my neighbors. What do you want to see? At the end of the day, I look at me as an elected official to serve those members. We really need to gather all of those facts and need to get to it. And we just need to get to a place where we can have these meetings where the concrete company can say what they want to do and what their facts are. We can ask additional questions. We can have residents speak during public comment and then get all the facts and evidence to the board. So when it's time to make a decision, we have the facts to make the decision what's best for the township.
Chris Holte is our guest. The final question I have before I let you go, of course, Stanley Township Supervisor. So that next election, that's coming up sometime soon here, or that next meeting to determine all that? I'm just curious what time frame we're looking.
It should be the middle of September. I think the publication is going to go out today or tomorrow. It just depends on when we land on the publication date. Hopefully September 10th or 11th, we'll run that one agenda item on the two candidates right now, followed with a special election after that. And I just want everybody to know is we're not saying that anything that happened in the first election was illegitimate or wasn't right. This is just another way. We're going to recreate it and do it again and let the people speak again.
Okay, I'll add one more question. Are you going to consider running for the chair? Because it sounds like you're pretty well in that middle and willing to listen to everybody else.
What I've told everybody on that part, I will do whatever the board and the community wants me to do to try to move things in a right direction.
Okay, very well said. That wasn't a yes or a no, but I think he can figure out between the lines there. Chris, it's been a pleasure. Anything else before I let you go?
No, I appreciate you coming on. And like I said, if people got questions or concerns, I think everybody knows by now my phone's always on.
Very good. Chris, it's a pleasure. We'll take care until next time. Chris Holte, Stanley Township Supervisor, current chair down south of the metro area. We're going to try to squeeze in a quick weather update from Tall Tom Schmansky, and then we'll wrap up the first hour of Afternoons Live next.